And here, let me just show you a series of projects that I've developed, which summarize, which can actually show how my design has been influenced by all these considerations in my life experiences. Well, my experience and what I've done in my life allows me to have a very broad idea. This is clear. It's clear because it's sort of obvious this occurred to me, because after I've done this experience in Murano and with Salviati, I get indirect contact with Foscarini. Foscarini, which is a brand of lighting design that works with a series of different great names, international names of design. Well, they are a brand that once again originated in Murano to then transfer in the interland of Venice. And in the moment where I pass from Murano to the other headquarters, and they move their production from only lighting all the way to objects in plastic and other thousands of materials. Therefore, not only glass anymore. They start asking me if I'm interested to be a counselor for the research of materials and product development. Well, I have an experience, and I make an experience there, and I learn so much, which is super important for me. Still nowadays, I know new suppliers, processes, and still nowadays, I can have the possibility of use the information I've learned there 10 years ago. And let's start from the furniture. All a series of this is the last chair I've presented this year at the Salone del Mobile, which is called Wolfgang. And you can still see how the influence of the Scandinavian countries has basically helped me in the conception of this chair. These are some tables called taffi for Gallotti Radice. And in this case, Gallotti Radice is a brand that works with glass, but with a different kind of glass. This is a slate industrial glass, and therefore it's not a blown glass. Every time I work with a material which is very cold and industrial, I always try to, in some way, make it more human. Well, in this case, my idea was that of creating some different planes. Maybe in this picture it's not so clear, but if you take a look at the shape of the circle, they are not perfect circles, but they're exactly the scanning of the sketches that I've made, and therefore they're circles. You all know that when you try to do a freehand circle, it's never a perfect circle, right? It will always be just like children, you know, design heads of people, right? Yes, thank you very much for the perfection here, because they look pretty perfect, Ali is saying. In this case, the industrial glass is very, especially if it's treated in a very geometric way, too perfect. And in this case, I wanted both to work with the shape, which was not perfect, imperfect, and also trying to transfer in these tables a concept which was very simple, the more. Sorry. I don't know, he just killed my ears, but it's okay. Which is the moire. Well, moire is this effect. Can you see all these lights and dark, light and dark? You are basically overlapping some lines, and you create these 3D effects. Well, I've done this because I went to Paris, and I traveled to Paris, and there I found at the Pompidou an incredible book, like 300 pages, that were explaining everything regarding moire. And I read all this in 1 week. I liked it so much. I like this effect, which can be controlled, which I was trying to understand how I could transfer in an object like some tables, coffee tables, very static, an effect which could actually make this be more like lively, more humanized. And so moving yourself around the table, you move the effect, and therefore there is an interaction with the object. This is a sofa I've designed for MEG. MEG is part of the Doimo Frezza group. It's called Metro. Why? Well, because in this case, it's a pretty simple example. It's a sofa which was basically for the contract, therefore linked to offices or hotels, congress centers and stuff like that. And therefore, the flexibility is very important. And my idea is very simple. I created like a sort of tray. It's a structure where on this tray there are a series of pillows, and there are some separations between the pillows that, according to the various needs, you can actually change these with the armrests. And therefore, in 1 meter, which is this, you could actually create your own seat or a situation that best fits your needs. And you can create some very long sofas or angular, which are basically interrupted by these armrests. This is a very interesting project for me, because this is the first time I was actually facing a brand and relating with an African brand. It's called Mabeo. And it was founded by a genius, according to my opinion. Well, he's an African entrepreneur. His name is Peter Mabeo. He's from Botswana. And 5 years ago, he had this idea of contacting Patricia Scuola, who was in South Africa for a conference, asking if she wanted to design a stool for this brand, which was just newly born. And Patricia had accepted. She designed a series of different objects, very interesting for Mabeo. And from that moment on, this small brand started becoming an editor which was projected to working with international designers. I get in direct contact with Peter in Stockholm, from Africa to Stockholm, all the way to reaching Italy, and he tells me, he's like, I would like to work with you as an Italian designer. And I conceived this work, which are these stools, and this series of different coffee tables. And the series of tables called Pula, which are these, well, take as an inspiration the idea, the Pula, which is the coin of Botswana, the currency of Botswana. So I exactly take the scale of these coins and I reproduce on the side of the table the series of these like small incisions and carving, which are handmade with an incredible quality, which are reproducing those incisions that every coin in the world has. And so I'm simply creating an object, which is a coffee table at the end, done in panga panga, which is this wood, African wood. And it basically is just simply a reproduction of a daily object that they use every day. So I'm just simply changing the use and the scale, and I use a decoration that is usually on coins in order to decorate a coffee table. A sort of, I want to emphasize the manual quality of these artisans. always as a typology of table, even though this is not really a table. I create a product for Affect, where the brand now has a very interesting idea, especially this year, which is typically Scandinavian idea, where they want to take care of people in their working environment, and they believe that they want to give a brief to a selection of their designers, among me, Jean-Marie Marceau, Elle, included some other designers. Well, they ask us to think of some objects which will support plants, and they should not be vases. But why plants? Because plants have some properties of purifying the air and giving a sort of wellness in an office or... Well, in this case, the idea of participating to this brief, which was very interesting for me. And the first thing, very practical, I go to a flower shop, I purchase 10 plants, and I just place them in the corner of my studio. Well, when you purchase a plant, 99% of the times they usually give you these vases, which are plastic, terrible, with an underbase, which is like a sort of dish, always terrible. And according to the plant, the vases have different diameters. I take and move the plants with the vases, and I leave the underbase on the floor, and observing all the circles on the floor that I see of these plates, I think, let me just rise the whole structure, and the plane of this table become like a series of different underbases, one attached to the other. And to actually follow up a philosophy of the brand, of actually being sensible to the environment, working with sustainable products which are recyclable, I decide to realize this plane, fusing the cans which are being recycled. This is made, therefore, in aluminum, and it's an aluminum which has been regenerated from aluminum cans. Well, from here, this year I'm... let me just insert myself. Can we go back? Because I thought of two things to say. Well, he gave me the permission. I'm not being mean and... Okay, it was decided. I need to interrupt. Well, I was thinking of something in terms of method. Before you said, well, I went to the oven the first time or second, and then you said, you don't need any models, but you just need ideas. You don't need to have sketches. You simply sketch. It could be a vase, and it just originates from there, okay? So it's a bit magic with glass, right? Is this the same thing? You didn't design anything, right? You've seen on the floor these underbases, and from there your idea started. Did I understand correctly? The concept was this, right? So this act of being capable of observing and translating an observation without sketching into a project, it's a bit in your mind style, right? The great protagonist. Let's not talk, we don't want to talk about the past designers, but they've always worked like this. We don't do these nostalgic things. But honestly, in terms of method, how true is this? Well, it's actually part of my way of developing products, definitely. I try any brand, with any kind of brand that I actually have to collaborate with, one of the first things I try to understand is that trying to understand their heritage, understand their core business, what have they done in the past, do they have an archive? Well, basically, I try to absorb all the information, as many as I can, from the brand, and as well from a series of different networks that the brand usually has. If it doesn't produce directly, well, it has a series of different suppliers with which they collaborate. Therefore, I think, exactly like I said before, any good project needs to have, since the real beginning, a very strong idea. A strong idea does not mean complex. It could simply observe gestures and probably all a series of different projects that I will show you further on all have this characteristics, that of observing what people normally do with these objects and what they expect from these objects. And I try to translate these in, like, also with, I don't want to really talk about style, but I try to give all my products like a shape that and a style that makes sense. The fact of trying to give a shape that has a certain kind of aesthetics will probably belongs more to what I was saying before when I was comparing Italian design and Scandinavian design. Well, I believe this belongs more to the Italian design. Scandinavian design is more linked to the function. Then, obviously, for the beauty of the function that they're designed, well, they become icons as well.